over.
Hey, Bill.
Yes.
Bill. We had a problem with the going live button. We were not live on YouTube. That's all. We missed the first part on YouTube, and
Okay.
I apologize to everyone. Somehow I missed the live button. So for those of you just joining us right now, I do apologize. We're 10 minutes in. You've been waiting. Thank you so much for hanging in there. We were talking about just before this went live on YouTube and Facebook. We were talking about the fact that many people have had these telepathic messages from encounters, and during these telepathic messages, it's based on taking care of the planet. We just had a major UN climate report backed by 244 scientists, 14,000 white papers, scientific papers. And what I just said to Bill before this went live was, maybe we get these messages, but where's the game plan on how to fix? Why didn't they just add a little game plan? I want to remind the listeners of something that Dr. Jeffrey Bennett said on this show. I've repeated it a number of times, and that is, if a future like advanced civilization with technology can get through the bottleneck of technology without destroying themselves, they will travel the stars. So, it's a fragile time for us, basically. And, maybe that's why these messages have been coming. Maybe there was, more of an expectation for us to fix what's going on than we have. I'm not sure.
Martin, let me ask you this question, because I've always thought about this, and I know a lot of other people may possibly think on these same terms. If we were being visited, let's just use the Greys as for this specific example. Thousands of years from now, due to our evolution and because of the climate issues, and potentially as the Earth becomes warmer and the surface becomes uninhabitable, and we have to become underground dwellers. Over thousands of years of evolution, is it not possible that we may kind of resemble Greys?
Would be muddy.
I mean, but I'm saying the gray skin from lack of sun, the big eyes, lack of sunlight, you're underground dwellers. Our appearance would change. I'm not talking about 100 years. We're talking thousands of years of evolution.
Yeah.
And they say that, the sizes of our cranium, the brain will get larger. I mean, is it possible? Is it out of the realm of possibility that these could be visitors from the future?
Well, I wonder if Dr. Michael Masters ever talked about the possibility of underground, but I don't really get how you could survive underground without sunlight, for food and,
they got bunkers now, Martin. They've got doomsday bunkers now. The government is fully prepared with facilities.
I know, but for food, I'm talking about food. Food's an issue. Just for the people that didn't hear this, and I do apologize for the people that have to hear it again, is we're going to be at Pine Bush September 4th, and it's going to be great fun. We're going to be hanging out with Mark D'Antonio, Richard Dolan, Lee Spiegel, and the museum. You want to catch the museum at pinebushmuseum.com. Tickets are going to be available there. And I also did want to mention that the blog this week is UFOs and Creatures in the Mountains of Taos, New Mexico by Charles Lear. It's a real amazing blog. You should check it out. Very strange encounters. So moving on, Bill, I just think it's very interesting that all this time, for many, many decades, people have said that, that they have this message, to take care of the planet.
Well, maybe they stay. If I'm just saying, I'm just using one example here, and this is of course speculative, hypothetical. I have no, there's
okay.
no.
Wait a minute. I want to address someone here.
Okay.
Please, for the love of God, leave politics out of this discussion.
We're not.
From Jay Allen. What does this have to do with politics? It has to do with humankind, not politics. If you want to make it political, have fun, have a nice life, and make something like that.
I don't know political. How that got into the equation.
Here's another one. Dave Altman, no politics. Dave, you? This is politics. What's politics got to do with climate change and destroying the planet?
No,
Shame on you, Dave.
I think it's more because it's science. Whether it's human cause, the planet goes through its cycles. We know that scientifically, every few thousands of years, the planet goes through cycles, regardless. But eventually, because of the sun itself, this planet will become uninhabitable at some point.
There's nothing we can do about that. Yeah.
And eventually we may have to go, the probability, off-world to continue the species, the human species, to go out.
I apologize to everyone in chat. Oh boy, I really blew it.
What did you do?
Someone was talking about politics.
Oh.
Had nothing to do with me. I'm so sorry. I really apologize to all you people.
Dave is going to get
read them the Riot Act, and they were talking about someone else. Boy, I'll tell you what, the phone line is up there, 855-472-5483, if you want to call and give me a hard time.
Martin, one quick thing, though. Is any update on International UFO Congress?
Yes, I've been waiting to hear from Karen. It looks like she may have commented to me.
Okay.
So anyway, Karen, I'm going to try to get her, Karen, who runs the International UFO Congress, I'm going to try to get her on next week. And Bill, let me just, say hi for a minute to everyone. And I'm going to just reply to Karen real quickly. Okay. I'll be right back.
Also, I don't know if many folks are aware of this. I'm sure many of you are, because one thing about the folks in this chat for Martin's show, you guys are incredibly informative, and it's great to have the varying opinions. It's excellent. I mean, whether you agree or disagree, that's fine.
Yeah. And that's sorry about giving those guys a hard
time. I was going to, Martin, if you want to continue about UFO Congress, before the other topic I was going to bring up is that's the Galileo project.
Yes.
Loeb. So is it going to be what's going on with the International UFO Congress? Is it going to be live, in person, virtual? What's the status of that?
I just heard from Karen, and that's going to be announced next week.
Okay.
Yeah. So
all right.
We'll wait for that. And going back to the Galileo project, that's another topic I think is fascinating. And someone wrote me, oh no, Seth Shostak joined that with Avi Loeb and all that, from SETI. But I don't, after figuring out exactly what he is planning to do, I think it's kind of funny that Avi Loeb says it's very possible that we had, basically a UFO coming into our solar system. And Seth Shostak decided to join him in the Galileo project. But it seems like actually a good idea. You and I have not really read about it thoroughly, but it seems like they're going to be working together actually through different types of signals. And now the footprint of some type of technology is what, Avi Loeb is going to be his segment of it.
And this is not a grant to Harvard. This is private funding.
And some billionaires kick some money in.
At least two that I read. Yes. Yep. But on the website for the project goal, if you go to the website, Galileo Project Goal, it does say that, Martin. It says this ground-based project is complementary to traditional SETI, and that it searches for physical objects and not electromagnetic signals associated with extraterrestrial technological equipment. So there does seem to be common ground here with SETI and what they're doing at this Galileo project.
Yeah, no, I think, if it makes sense, it makes sense. And a lot of times I've criticized Seth Shostak. The only thing I really criticize or think he should be criticized for is his closed-mindedness to the possibilities that, we may be visited. We're definitely being visited by something. And he has just, he says that he needs more, enough evidence that would fill a wing in the Smithsonian Museum with parts of UFOs before he'd believe that we're being visited.
The good thing about this, I mean, you can agree with what the direction that he's going with this or not. Okay. But I think it's great that scientists broaden their research, because a lot of this is considered taboo. Once you use the acronym UFO, a lot of people tend to fall back from it. I think it's great that they're having a more open mind and broadening out the research and looking at all these different venues. I don't see any issue with that personally, Martin, in my opinion. I don't. I think it's a good thing that they're looking
Yeah.
from specifically this point of view and the research that's involved. What do you think about that? You think it's a good thing?
I do. You know, I mean, I can't remember who it was I spoke with, but, you know, it's better than doing nothing. The only issues I have, again, like I say, has to do with the closed-mindedness of the possibility of it being more than just whatever they think it is. You know, I mean, they brush it off as like everything can be explained, that type of thing. So that's the only bone I have. You know, they're looking for radio signals, you know, that there may not be any radio signals. Maybe advanced technologies are going to use something else besides radio signals. But if
Agreed.
they're open to other ways of checking technological, what do you call it, footprints, then that means at least they're open-minded enough to do that.
But it's also interesting because why wouldn't, I mean, look at the Voyagers. They're out of the solar system. They're going into deep space now. Why is it out of the realm of possibility that another civilization out there isn't doing something similar and sending probes throughout the galaxies?
Yeah.
I see no reason why we shouldn't be looking for that kind of technology that might be out there that they sent toward us the same way we're sending stuff outward. From that point of view, I think it's a logical conclusion that you can possibly look for this technology somewhere out there. By the way, we do have a call. You want to try to bring them on right now?
Yeah, why not? You want to bring them on live while we're both here?
Yeah, bring them on live. And then I'll
take another chance.
Yeah, I'll take another chance. Why not?
Here we go. All right. Caller, you are live. You are hot on the air. We have no idea who you are, where you're from. Could you please give us your first name and your location, please?
All right. Try this again. I'm Bear from Kentucky.
Hey, how you doing? Welcome to the show.
Bear.
I'm doing good. Sorry about that earlier. I'm at work, but I heard about the topic and I felt really compelled to call in because I specifically had an encounter when I was a smaller child. I would say probably around 5 years old, where I was visited in my sleep and I was shown a precognition of a catastrophic fire in my hometown. And lo and behold, I woke up the next morning for that to have come true in the field behind my house. I'd seen it all directly happen. It was shown to me. It was explained to me that this is because of what's happening to the planet. And it always, I have been listening to paranormal talk radio since I was 11 years old. I used to listen to Art Bell constantly. And he would talk about, they used to call it global warming, but and I couldn't picture a more politically different person from myself from Art, to Art Bell, but because it crosses those, it's not a political thing, it's a human thing. And now it's a cosmic thing because we have people all over the world, experiencing it every day. These ET visitors are coming and they're trying to tell us, what's happening to our planet and what we can do to stop it. But I think that the cabals and the higher ups and the deep state government are trying to keep that suppressed because they want us to lose this planet faster so that we are more motivated to work hard and be subservient to their ends.
Mike, may I comment on what Bear said?
Yeah, go ahead.
Bear, it's great that you called in. It's great to actually speak to you on the air. I'm raised a Catholic. Now, I had instances with some experiences when I was young too, and I used to argue with my mom, which was not pleasant. I used to say, "Is God an extraterrestrial?" Okay, I'm like 7 years old. I have no idea. But how do we know it's extraterrestrial? How do we know it's not a divine guide, spiritual in nature? How do we discern the differences of what the source may be that may be providing these messages to all of us? Did you ever contemplate, like, for yourself, for your own experience, those different possibilities?
Actually, yeah. And I can't say with myself, for myself with any certainty whether it would be a divine intervention or an extraterrestrial or interdimensional. I was raised a Southern Baptist. I've seen what I believe to be demons in the world. I've seen all kinds of spiritual beings, both light and dark. It could have very well been some sort of divine intervention, an angelic intervention, or a demonic one, perhaps. But as far as visitors coming and delivering telepathic messages to people, specifically regarding the health of the planet, that's definitely something I've experienced from a young age.
Very interesting. And like Martin said earlier when the show started, there are a lot of individuals that have similar experiences like yourself that are discussing this openly now. I think more openly now than ever before, because I don't think people are ridiculed for coming forward and discussing their experiences like it was decades ago or even a few years ago. So it's great to hear people like you come forward and discuss it and bring your experiences and your accounts to the public forum.
Yes, thank you so much.
Well, I know that it was, coming out, quote unquote, to my family and my wife was not as big of a deal as I had foresaw it being. And I even got a lot of, I've seen stuff too, and I've experienced things as well.
Well, interesting, Bear, and thank you for calling in to Martin's show and supporting Podcast UFO. And we look forward to having you call back again in a future show, Bear.
Yeah, thanks for the call. Bill, how is this going to work? Are people calling
I'm
in?
leaving. Yes, I need to leave. People are calling in, and I want you to get
Okay.
all these callers because this is your show for open line. So, folks, I am saying goodbye to all of you. God bless all of you. Enjoy the show. And my love to everybody in the chat and listening on KGRADB.com. All right, Martin,
Right.
I'm out of here. Bring me out.
Actually, I have to keep you in because I have to keep you in, Bill, because we're taking calls. So I'll just do this type of thing here. All right. So the number's up on the line, and it looks like you have Mark D'Antonio's picture or something up in your. Oh, there you go. All right. I guess we do have some callers calling in at 855-472-5483. I mentioned earlier when we thought we were live and we were not live that the former senior minister of Canada's national defense, Paul Hellyer, passed away on the 8th. And he seemed like a really good guy. I never actually talked to him. I did have some email correspondence with him. Try to get him on the show. He was always very busy, but he was someone high up in the level of Canadian, their organization, their defense organization, that actually made a difference in the UFO world. Not everything he said was exactly accurate because he was following some people that had some inaccuracies, but his heart was in the right place. And unfortunately, we lost him on August 8th. We have Chris calling from Philadelphia. Chris, welcome to the show. You're live.
Thank you, Martin. How are you?
I'm doing well. Good to have you on. Thanks for the call.
Thank you. And I wanted to thank you for everything you do for the UFO community. You're our most valuable player.
Hey, well, thank you very much. That's very nice of you. So what would you like to talk about tonight? The floor is yours.
Yes, I just have one question and I'm going to hang up.
Sure.
It has to do with that report to Congress that the Navy gave in June. And my question, which is very simply, does the government have any credibility after the many years of all the different disinformation?
That, my opinion on that, does the government have any credibility? Well, we know for sure that the government has lied about this topic. We do know that for sure. And a lot of times when things have to do with what they consider national defense, they will lie in order to so-called protect the public. I don't know if a lot of this stuff would fall into that category or not. I do wonder about how much we're actually going to know about this topic, how much they know even behind closed doors and how much we'll actually ever know about it. So I think I've said this a number of times. I think that they probably do not know exactly what's going on. So that might be the reason we're not going to know everything they know, because there would be that, the idea that we can't be protected somehow. Our skies can't be protected or preserved from whatever it is going through it when it wants to go through it. So I think, I guess I would have to say that I don't really think that they could be relied on to be totally credible. And if anyone would like to, go on that debate, are you still on the line or are you gone? I think he's gone. But anyway, if someone else would like to, he left, Bill said. All right. So anyway, that's my thoughts on that. And I don't care if anyone would like to call in and challenge that and give their opinion on that as well. Jay, we have Jay from Michigan. Welcome to the show, Jay. You're live.
Hi, Martin.
Hi.
Martin, there's a new production on YouTube from a 7 News Spotlight out of Australia. It's called The UFO Phenomenon. I believe the newsman's last name is Cuthbert.
Yes, he was our guest last week. And
okay, this just go ahead. Sorry.
No. I unfortunately I did not get to watch that ahead of the show I had with him last week. It's a fantastic. You're right. It's a Channel 7 Australia, and it's called UFO Phenomenon. And I watched it last night, and it is incredible. It's a great video, and I think that's what you were basically going to say, right?
Yes, and I thought it was a blockbuster show.
Yeah, it's very good.
What I found interesting to me was that it gave a lot of credibility to the story of Terry Lovelace and Jonathan Wagan, the Marine. There was parts associated with a woman, Anne, and the 2 federal service officers who were interrogated, put through a pretty rough time. And I found that pretty amazing. And I would hope everybody would go to YouTube and watch his show. It's basically about what went on in Australia, and I would label it a blockbuster. So I just wanted to mention that, Mark.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. And that is on YouTube. It's free to watch, and it's really good. And if you missed the show that I had last week with Ross Coldheart, please do check it out. I think I've gotten more feedback from that than I did when I had Lou Elizondo on. Getting a lot of really good feedback.
I think I did watch your show, Martin, with him, and I enjoyed it greatly.
Yes. Hey, well, thank you for the call.
Thank you, Martin.
And we have the lines are open. I can't believe we have the lines wide open. We have like 9 lines we can fill up. So that number again is 855-472-5483. Give us a call. Bill is standing by, or I might have to pull him back in here to keep the conversation going. I would love to hear from you if you'd like to talk about the opinion that I had that I thought was controversial at first, but it wasn't. And that is, the climate change report and the people that have been saying many times over the years that they've had telepathy about that. And my question was, why didn't we get a book on how to fix it? Why didn't we get messages?
I got a question.
Free energy.
I got a question for you.
Yeah.
Is there any news or updates about the supposed 20-something minute video that's supposed to drop?
No. And I will reach out to Lou Elizondo because I'd like more information about that. And that was kind of like a teaser, but I got to tell you one thing about Lou Elizondo. When he says that something's going to happen, it's coming up every single time something does come up. And, in other words, he's not BSing everybody. So we should be able to expect that fairly soon. And I'll make a note here to contact him and just find out if we have any expectations when that might be coming out.
Also, there are 2 series now out there available.
Yeah.
One is on Showtime called UFO by J.J. Abrams.
Yeah.
4-part. And there's another one on Netflix. I can't recall the name.
Yes.
I started watching with
UFO
Stephen.
projects or something like that.
Yeah, so it'd be interesting for the callers to give their opinions if you've seen these.
I started watching UFO projects. Alejandro Rojas is on there.
Yeah, I saw
and all the
Alejandro.
other, the regulars. The regulars are on there. Dave Marler's on. No, wait a minute. I might be getting confused with Marler was on the UFO thing I watched last. I'm watching too much UFO stuff, so I'm getting confused. It's all a blur. But anyway, they're all good. Everything that's out. The J.J. Abrams one, we were supposed to have tonight. We were supposed to have the producer and director on, but one of them is traveling and couldn't make it. So hopefully the 24th we'll get them on. We may bring in Kevin Day too, who is featured.
Day, right? I've spoken to Kevin and Gary Borges. I mean, these guys are amazing guys.
Yeah,
really.
Yeah. Kevin, it's funny. Kevin actually watched my show I had with Robert Powell when the whole connection started. I mean, no one knew about his story or anything. I remember Robert Powell wrote me like the next day and says, "Hey, I got this contact from a guy named Kevin Day, and he sounds legit." And by golly, he was totally legit. And I connected him with Leslie Kane and all that. So
see you, Martin. We got another caller.
We got a caller. Okay, let me know who it is. All right, I gotta do this. So anyway, the lines are open. We have plenty of lines. You can fill them right up. That number is 855-472-5483. And let's hear about your encounter. Let's hear your opinion on the UFO congressional report. Anything you'd like to talk about, UFO or encounter related. If I get really desperate in the second hour, we'll go into ghosts if we have to. But let's try to stick to the UFO topic. Anyway, the feedback I've had, a lot of people that have given me feedback from last week's show with Ross was that they really liked the fact that, a mainstream investigative journalist, with a lot of clout, he's Australian 60 Minutes host. He's been around forever. He's award winning. And someone like that is taking this seriously, and people are listening to him. And I think that moves the needle forward. We have Gasper from California. You are live on the air, Gasper. Welcome to the show.
Hi, Martin. How's it going?
Good. How are you? Welcome.
Good. Earlier in the show, you were talking about the aerial school children. I think you were referencing that, how they brought up in their conversations telepathically with these beings that there was a warning about us destroying our planet. And given with the report that came out yesterday, and to be quite honest, just looking in the news, Greece is on fire. We're about to have another heat dome here in the Pacific Northwest, while at the same time, there's now second year in a row in California, we have the largest wildfire 2 years in a row. Yeah. My question is there any speculation that you've heard as far as, these beings seem to care enough to warn us or warn school children, yet they're not intervening in any way? Like, that's the one thing that I'm trying to wrap my head around. It's like they care enough to mention that there's this problem that we're causing, but that's where they kind of draw the line.
That's kind of what I was bringing up. Like, where is the playbook on how to fix it? And because obviously, any type of intelligence is going to have to go through this type of thing unless they figure out a way around it early on. And I don't know what other intelligence want to blow themselves up like we do. Maybe that's common. Maybe it's not. Maybe we're unusual that we want to have 7,000 warheads aiming at each other. So I think that's all in the messages. And but you're right. There's no. Would we be intervened with? That's one of the things that a lot of people kind of speculate, because there's been intervention with nuclear warheads. Is that what would happen if we had an all-out war countdown? Would we be intervened with? I don't know how any of that works, and this is all speculation. It's all guessing. And I don't know. I mean, are we going to be saved? Can we save ourselves? That type of thing. It's all question marks.
One thing I also thought about in relation to climate change and, the UFO phenomenon is, a lot of these defense contractors and reputable people talk about when they see this type of technology, anti-gravitic, extreme speeds, that's the type of technology that I would imagine not just the United States, but the world would want to get their hands on, because what better way to alter your climate, which is, we put up carbons up in the atmosphere. The only way we're going to get it out is actually going up there in the upper stratosphere and start sucking that, carbon, that methane out of the atmosphere, or even put sulfates or, other particles that will help repel the sun's rays and help cool down the planet. I mean, obviously volcanoes could do that, but it's better if we control it than wait for a mega volcano. So I'm thinking to myself, like, this technology actually might also be an answer to healing the planet. It might have the ability to do that, but it seems like they're still stonewalling from the government as far as wanting to tell us what they know, or if they know anything.
Yeah, it's the saying, for every action there's a reaction, and I don't know if if we did have control, if we would know how to control properly and tip it the other way, and we'll go into an ice age. Who knows? I mean, it's really a very, very tricky, I imagine, because you just think about the billions of years this planet has sat here, and with basically undisturbed, except for natural occurrences like volcanoes, like you mentioned, and asteroids and things like that. But other than that, we haven't had anything to change what's going on. Certainly not animals, But anyway, all interesting things to ponder for sure.
Absolutely. And just to all your listeners who, maybe they're not following the climate change issue as closely, one of the most disturbing things I heard was the last time we had this amount of carbon in the atmosphere was millions of years ago. We're in a whole different paradigm here as a species. What we're about to see in the next 20 to 100 years, I mean, part of me hopes that they intervene at that point.
Yeah. Well, all we can do is try to do our part. Is your first name Casper?
Jasper.
Oh, all right.
G-A-E-R.
All right. Very good. Well, nice talking to you. Thank you for calling in.
Thank you, Martin. Thank you for all you do.
All right. I appreciate the call. All right. Next, we have Ken from Massachusetts. Welcome to the show, Ken. You're live.
Hey, Martin. I
Hi.
appreciate your show. I love it. You got great guests, and
Thank you.
I enjoy your topics that you have most of the time. And I also want to thank Bill, too, for his Perseid Meteor UFO stream. I mean, not UFO, YouTube streams, because those are fantastic to watch.
Yeah. Well,
Thanks.
I'm sure I'm going to bring Bill. We did want to talk about that a little bit. I'm going to bring Bill back in a little bit later so he can talk about that. He says thank you in the chat to you.
Yep. It's really good. But like I said, I do like your show, and I just want to let you know one case that I think is really good, and not many people talk about it, is the Norwood, Ohio case. Have you ever heard of that?
I have not. I'm interested in all cases I've never heard of. It's always fascinating. Let's hear about it.
Yeah, it's a priest had a church like bazaar affair, and this I believe was in the 40s, maybe late 40s. And yeah, it was after World War II, because they had, they had the surplus, those big candle power lights. They had the searchlights.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
So they did that to try to draw in people to the fair, like they did back in those days. And they had an actual operator, and they noticed a disc. It was hitting a disc above the fair. So people were looking. I guess the fair went on for a bunch of days in a row, and there's a picture, actually you can see it's on the internet, of the light coming up, and it looks like it actually bends toward the object. And I've seen that type of phenomenon spoken about during the Westall case in Australia, where the high school kids saw that UFO in the '66, I believe.
Yep.
And that was explained in that too. One of the days, I guess, subsequent to the sighting, there was a UFO off the side of the road, and the light from the headlight of the car actually bent towards the object. Almost
Oh
like it
no,
had
I know what you're talking about. That was in Australia, but that was on a highway, and there was a man driving on a highway, and the lights bent toward the UFO. But it was in Australia. You're correct about that part.
Yeah, I saw that on the YouTube show about it. I guess that was subsequent to the sighting that they had there, but I guess it was around the same time as the Westfall.
Yes.
And that was the only time I saw a similar situation where the light bent towards the object. But that's really good if you do some research into that. No one's really talked about it much, but that is a really, really great case.
Let me ask you this. Did they rule out the possibility of some type of dirigible?
Yeah, because I guess it was there multiple times. It wouldn't move with the wind. And actually, now this is going back, I looked into this years ago. There was, I think, scientists on site from Chicago University, I believe, because I think it was in Illinois, Norwood, Ohio, but I think it was close by to Illinois. I can't, remember exact details about it, but I know someone was there to observe it, like a physicist or so, and it was in the newspapers at the time. But
Wow.
there was a film that was made and it subsequently disappeared, where objects were seen coming in and out of this saucer-shaped craft.
Oh, wow. That's fascinating. Yeah, all it would take is, one really convincing film that couldn't be doctored with, to really have a lot more people take this thing seriously. And it's funny when you hear about these things disappearing, there's a number of times the Big Sur, missile strike from a UFO back in the 60s or 70s. When that happened, that film disappears. All these, the film that the astronaut took looked at, Gordon Cooper, in the desert, that film disappeared. These all disappear to, somewhere in the government. Who knows if they're in some, warehouse tucked away somewhere and still exist. It would be interesting to see.
My theory about that, about not having good photos of film, is because if there's good photos of film, the government will get the hands on it and you will never see it. That's why there's no good films of or photos. Look at the photo in the I think it was Scotland that those hikers took of that triangle-shaped craft over, I think it was Scotland or Wales, and the English government still will not release that photo.
Wow. Well, I played a little clip from Neil deGrasse Tyson a couple of weeks ago, and in it he says, I'll tell you why, these UFOs, I don't know, I'm saying it, I'm just paraphrasing, but the reason that there's nothing to this is because there's a billion cell phone cameras around. And why don't we have these on YouTube going viral, these UFOs? There's a lot you could argue about that. First of all, iPhones are not exactly the best filming device for something far away. They are, because when you broaden the focus, it's basically not, it pixelates the further you go out. The clearest you'll ever see it is the image you see when you're not expanding or zooming it. They don't have a zoom feature like, a camera does. So anyway, what I'm getting at is, a lot of times when an encounter quickly happens, if a phone or a camera is the last thing the person thinks of. I know that I would have never thought of when I had my UFO sighting. I would have never even thought if I had a camera beside me, unless I brought the camera out purposely and set it down beside me. I would have never thought to pick it up because my mouth was open. I was staring at it. What am I looking at?
Yeah, it's got to be so shocking that you're like, I waited all my life to see this, and it's right here, and it's got to be. I've never had an experience. I've been looking for years and years since I was a kid. Never have, but I can imagine if it ever does happen, it's going to be just shocking. Like you won't even be able to move.
Yeah. Well, for me, it was like I couldn't wrap my head around what I was seeing, and I think that might be the case for a lot of people that see something for the first time. And I wasn't even thinking about UFOs or anything. I just like, what am I looking at? type of thing. And I think that's what might happen also. Although, I've spoken to people that have had many encounters, have seen a lot of things, and maybe that's different for them. They're prepared a lot of times, and, but it's all good. The lines
I don't
are
want
open.
to take up any more. Yep. I don't want to take up any more time. So you have a great day, and I appreciate the podcast.
Oh, thank you very much, Ken. All right. Talk to you later. All right. So the lines are open again. That number is 855-472-5483. And if no one's jumping on the line right now, I'm going to yank Bill back in because we have about 5 minutes before we go into the top of the hour break. And here he is. Ta-ta-da.
Actually, I was looking at chat. I just signed into the YouTube, but Brett makes a really great point. I have
In chat?
Yes.
Okay, I'll look for his.
I have a Sony A7S III camera. It's over there in my case, but even with that camera, which is one of the best low resolution, low light cameras there are on the market, period, it is very difficult to discern objects when they're at a high altitude. Martin, I mean, I've seen many things, and I actually have a clip I would love to share with your audience, but this was not with my Sony. Now, I don't know if you could give me the capability of sharing my screen.
Yeah, you can do it right down at the bottom. You can share your screen right there.
Okay, I
just give you permission. And we have 4 minutes if you want to try to do it now.
I have it on my screen. So I'm going to do that right now. Share screen.
All right. And I'll let
I
you do
captured
that.
this. I'm sharing now. Let me do it. You got to bring it up.
Go. All right.
Okay.
And I'm gonna put this in full screen. So go ahead and talk about what we're seeing here.
I started skywatching in 2014. But at that time, I was using a Samsung security cam, and I took the IR filter out of it. So it's very grainy. I've had many people analyze this video that everybody's about to see. Now, I see this thing curving down right here. See this little curve that's starting here? It's going to come down. It's going to come back up and curve into an open space. And I want people to see this. Now, remember, this is an old camera system. This was a black and white security camera. Now I have the Sony A7S III, which is incredible piece of equipment. But I'm going to try to freeze this. I captured this over at my house, and I live in the Hudson Valley. But this was over my house, Martin. It's incredible. And I looped it. You can see it's hard to freeze it. I'm trying to get it to freeze at the right spot. Okay. That was over my house. That's way up there, Martin. That's high above the cloud layer. That showed up over my house in September 18th, 2014. Now, I'm not saying that's an extraterrestrial craft. All I know is that's a UAP by definition. I don't know what that is.
Can you let it loop again?
Yeah. Let me rewind it a little bit. Let me make sure. Oh, my screen.
We're seeing the
Let me
weather
mute it
results.
just in case. Yeah, that was
Okay. Now, it looks like I see some flashes behind it, like
That's snow.
That?
That's snow from clouds. But if you look, there's a curve that comes down. You can actually see it curving up. Look right there. Curve.
This almost looks like the dust particles that they filmed off of the space station.
Well, this is.
You know what I mean? I know this is above your house, but I mean,
yeah,
it looks similar to.
I mean, Martin, that is. I have no explanation. I've spoken to so many people, and they have no explanation on what that is. On what that is, I've had so many conclusions, from a meteor breaking up and bouncing out and back into space, to Valery Uvarov from Russia telling me that that's a part of the Terminator program of things that we have in outer space to killer satellites and to take out meteors. I've had so many. I don't know if you're familiar with, I can't recall his name, Wilbur Allen. He did an analysis on this. Says, Bill, you got a UFO or UAP. So I've heard so many different, but that's an example of something that you may see in the sky, but now I have better equipment. But Brett made a great point. Even with good equipment, when something's so high altitude, you don't know, it may look like a satellite. It may be a plane, high altitude plane. It can be anything. It's really hard to discern an object when it's that high in altitude. It really is, even with great equipment on the ground. Now, like I said, the Sony A7S, Martin, is a really high-end camera. And I see a lot of stuff all the time when I'm doing, like Ken mentioned, I do it all the time, and I see some peculiar things, but I cannot say without real credible evidence, unless it's low altitude and I capture something and I could say, okay, now that just moved a 90 degree, or it did something odd, or we can see the features. I cannot say what that is. You know, I cannot. So I'm just saying in my case, I'm not one to jump out and use clickbait and say, oh, it's aliens, because I don't know what that is.
Yeah, I posted someone in the chat said that. It's not aliens unless it's aliens. Yeah.
But I think a lot of people experience this kind of stuff and they witness stuff, and it's hard to discern what they're seeing. It really is, because even a plane coming at you, because I speak to a lot of people at Pine Bush, and even a plane coming at you, it just looks like the light is stationary.
Yes, I've seen that many times. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I lived right near Pease Air Force Base and over in New Hampshire. So I lived on the other side of the river.
It's really difficult. I mean, but I would suggest people spend more time looking at the sky and doing other things instead of being hypnotized by your phones. It's a great hobby. Get yourself a camera, set it up outside. If anybody needs help to set up equipment, I can help you. It's not hard. You need a capture card and a camera that can output to the capture card, and then you could stream and you can do all this stuff and you could record. I think it's excellent that if more people pay attention to what's going on above us, there's a lot more going on than we all realize, because I see stuff all the time.
Yeah. And by the way, you know, you think of, oh, well, it's the young people on their phone. I was in a cafe this morning and I was probably the youngest. I'm not a spring chicken. And I was probably the youngest person in the cafe, and every single person was a zombie on their phone. And so it doesn't matter if they're young, old, everyone is like glued to the damn phone. We're going to miss a lot of UFOs.
When we come back from break, because we have to go to a break, but I am going to show the camera. But
do that.
It's amazing, but we need to go to break. So
All right. So we're going to go into break, everyone. And that's going to be a 3-minute break. I played this clip before for those of you who watch all the time, but I think it's an interesting one on Project Blue Book. So if you're over at KGRA Radio, we'll be right back right after these messages. Hang in, everyone on YouTube.
What would you consider as a person qualified to interpret what he sees?
Well, I consider astronomers genuinely expert in their field. First of all, they have a tremendous advantage over the other physical scientists, and that is that they have powerful telescopes and photographic equipment to confirm their interpretation.
Do astronomical laboratories make any contribution to the UFO program?
In a negative way, they do, because I've never received a UFO report from an observatory.
Not a one.
Not a single one.
Well, how about the tracking and detection facilities that the Air Force itself has? How does this fit into the program?
Well, actually, to begin with, the United States Air Force is charged by an act of Congress with the air defense of the United States. And the North American Air Defense Command and the Air Defense Command have space tracking facilities which are constantly on the alert 24 hours a day. We're interested in anything that flies in our atmosphere.
Well, how about UFO reports in other countries? How are they handled?
UFOs actually occur worldwide. However, the United States is the only country in the world that places as much emphasis on the phenomenon. Other countries place a burden of proof on the observer and not on the Air Force.
That would make your job a lot easier if they did that here.
Yes, it would.
Thank you, Colonel Tucker, Major Quintanilla. I would like to close by reading a very brief excerpt from the report of the Air Force's Scientific Advisory Board, which they made recently upon completing a detailed review of the subject of UFO. This is a statement. The committee concluded that in the 19 years since the first UFO was sighted, there has been no evidence that unidentified flying objects are a threat to our national security.
All right, welcome back, everyone. This is Martin Willis, and I've got Bill with me here. We're taking calls, and I'll put up that number. That number is 855-472-5483. The lines are open, right, Bill?
Yes, they are. So, folks, call in so this way I can get off. No, I'm kidding. I love being on with Martin. But, yeah, this is the Sony A7S III.
All right, let me hang on a second. Let me pull you up full screen. And for those of you listening to the audio podcast, you can imagine it's a camera.
Oh, yeah.
Pretty
But the
fancy
one-
looking.
Oh yeah, but the one I have an old Sony too, the original Sony A7S. But the great thing about this camera, Martin, for those that may want to stream with a camera like this, is that it has a standard HDMI port right in here. You really can't see it. You might be able to see it right on the top there, right there. The old camera had the micro, and I use it so much for Skywatches, this camera, that the cable hangs. This has a nice locking system too on the cage where I can lock the HDMI cable so it doesn't put that weight on the camera. But this camera is great because of the standard HDMI on it. So that's an example of you could stream, Martin. Anybody can. You could just leave the camera out there on the tripod, have it observe the sky, like tonight, for example, and the next 2 nights. And caller, I will answer your call shortly. Matter of fact, caller, I'm going to put you on hold, and I will get to you as soon as I wrap up here in a second. So caller, just be patient a second. The Perseus meteor shower is going on. Now, the peak is tomorrow night. Into Thursday.
That's right.
You can see up to 100, Martin, on if it's clear, if the weather's permitting. So tonight I'll be streaming on my channel, Bill NY Skywatcher, if the weather clears up tonight, tomorrow night, and Thursday night. And with this camera, because of the low light resolution, the ISO goes up to 400,006, I think it is. I can make nighttime look like daytime. Now, it'll get extremely grainy the higher I go with the ISO, but it's amazing how much you can see with this camera that obviously you cannot see with the naked eye. This camera picks up everything, Martin, and it's absolutely stunning to see all the meteors going on in the sky. And I have a wide view lens, field lens here, and I have other lenses too, but this one does a tremendous job for the Skywatcher. So, yeah, I would. It's a great hobby, and if you're taking it into something more serious for observations, yeah, this is the type of camera you want to do that. Now, I saw comments in your chat room. All your opinions can possibly be the correct one when it comes to what I just showed on that video clip. I don't know what it is, and every opinion is equally important. And
I think it's important to post. Like a lot of times, people will send me videos. I think it's really a great idea to post them in a public format, because someone might understand what it is. You know, the more eyes that look at it, someone might be able to figure it out.
You could, my take on things is I'm skeptical. I'm a skeptic, but I'm open-minded, and I'm open to all critique. Doesn't matter if it's negative, positive. If somebody says something that says, you know what, they might be on something. They're right. I want that input. I want people to let me know what they're thinking because it's constructive.
Well, let me ask you something on that video. I noticed it sort of looked triangular. And would that have anything to do with the camera lens, the aperture? Nothing.
Remember, this is an old security camera.
Oh, okay.
Samsung with the IR removed. Now, if I caught something on this camera similar to that, we would have seen a lot more detail.
Yeah.
Because the camera wouldn't have all that snow, and it would just be a nice clear image. And that's what I'm hoping to do, Martin. You know, I think to myself all the time, everybody talks about they need evidence, UFOs, all this stuff. I may actually one day, I may not, I may actually get something for real.
Yeah.
Undeniable. Now, of course, people will always be saying he photoshopped. They'll try to debunk it. But one day, I hope that if I get something low altitude or it moves very unusually, like 90 degrees or something, but then again, it could be a drone. There's other, there's rational explanations. But I am looking for that one undeniable footage that says, okay, this is something. Not something that's grainy or it's somebody's moving the camera, because that's a lot. That has a lot of effect. People are moving their cameras and it makes it
and the blurring. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, the zigzags and all that.
I have this on a stationary tripod. It's just capturing the sky in real time.
Let me ask you something, Bill. How can if you actually did film something today with that camera, and it was an amazing sighting, and it was clear as a bell, how would you prove? Can you prove that it was not doctored with?
Well, obviously, if I'm streaming live, Martin.
No, let's say you're not streaming live. Let's just say you just drop your camera out and you're filming and you happen to look at it.
I'm recording. I guess I would have to send the original memory card to go under analysis, that it's not tampered. I would just have, the thing is I'm worried about is this, and I hate to bring your name into this, but if I really caught something, I'm making copies and I'm sending it out to individuals so you all have a copy.
Yeah, send one to Seth Shostak.
Because I you never know. You never know what might happen. Because if you really capture something, and this could be military in nature, because I'm not far from the National Guard base. Like I said, I'm a skeptic, but I'm objective. I'm open-minded, but I will never, ever jump off the cliff, so to speak, to say it's this, that, or that one. I don't know.
Yeah.
I need to go.
I hear noises in the background there.
Yeah, that's my phone going insane. You know how when we're producers and stuff, we're always busy. And I apologize for that. But I would send it out to people that I know that can analyze it. But I definitely wouldn't send it to the media.
Yeah.
It happened to me in the past.
Yeah. Well, there would be a place for that if it could be backed up. That would make the difference, right?
I would rather send it to someone has a knowledge in analysis on video, photo,
like Mark D'Antonio for one.
Right. Oh, I definitely go to him for opinions. There's no doubt. Yeah. He's number one on my list. He's a friend of mine.
Yeah.
But I also go to other people as well. Yeah. You want to have multiple opinions. Just like going to a doctor, you go for a second opinion. If it's a serious diagnosis, you want another opinion. So I definitely go out to as many people as possible. But what I'm saying is, if you're not looking, if you're not observing, you won't, like you said earlier about if you're not searching for things, you're never going to know.
Yeah.
So at least I'm attempting to do footage, recording, live streaming of the sky, because the Hudson Valley, I'm in the Hudson Valley near Pine Bush. We hear so much about this being the hot spot for activity. I have a documented case, 1995, Martin, with New Fork. And that's 1995, before 97, the Phoenix lights.
Mm-hmm.
I seen a boomerang. I couldn't really tell if it was a boomerang or triangles. It was at night. So June 10th, 1995, in New York City, in the Bronx, when I was living in the Bronx at the time.
Wow.
And I didn't know I wasn't into all this stuff. I wasn't. I mean, as a little kid, I talked about stuff, but I never seen anything. But that night, at 11 o'clock at night, they had Pocahontas showing in Central Park, and there was a thunderstorm that night. And I love weather. I love looking outside the window and observing lightning. And all of a sudden, this thing goes over the house, right over the house, silent. And I'm like, what the heck was that? So I was looking on the internet. This is Windows 95 days. And I'm trying to figure out who I can contact about this. And I've stumbled upon New Fork. And Peter Davenport emailed me back a few days later. He says, Bill, you're not alone. Many people seen this from New York City up the Hudson River into Canada. I actually have a model somebody made me of what I seen. And it was the typical 5 bluish white lights. It was bluish white. It was like a bluish white tinged color, silent, and it went right over. I was in Montauk a few years later, because I've been going to Montauk since I was a child. I go there every year vacationing. I had an incredible experience on the beach. Lights appeared over the ocean. A guy runs out of his house that was past the dunes, and he says, I don't want to sound like I'm crazy or anything, but did you see what I seen over the ocean? I said, yeah. And I was with other people, including my mother, who ran to the hotel room because she was in fear of what was going on. So then I move up here and I hear all about this Hudson Valley stuff. And I said, now I really got to, turn this up a notch. I was like everybody else, and I still am. I may be a producer at KGRA, and I'm blessed to be in company of you and all the other great hosts out there. But I'm just like everybody else, looking for answers, trying to learn information, listening to everybody's opinions. I'm just trying to learn too more about this topic, because Martin, I've experienced stuff myself. Now I don't know what it is. Is it military in nature? Is it something else? I don't know, but I want to know the truth. And I hope before I leave this existence that we learn more about this, but I'm not, that's wishful thinking. I don't think disclosure is going to come. It's a slow drip, 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 you know, but is it actually going to come out? No, because it's national security. If you open that door, you're also opening Pandora's box to everything that happened in the past. And
That's
with
right.
with the state of the way things are today, that there is so mistrust within government, what would happen if they were to come clean, saying, well, you know what, this happened, forget about it. Everything else is on the table. What about all the other things that happened? Like a big thing for me, Martin, was TWA 800. I know this is a UFO show, but what happened off of
Long Island? Yeah.
Yeah. With all those witnesses.
Yes. Missile. Yeah.
It's things like that. So that would open up all these different things that have happened in the past that people question.
Yeah.
Do you honestly think they want to do that? And again, on the national security guys, no way. They will not reveal it if they can out. That you have civilians in Congress or president or whatever. You think the military is going to tell them information in the age of leaks where they can provide information even in a classified setting? Do you honestly think they're going in willingly, wanting to tell them what they know? Because they know
yeah. So you're bringing up a good point, and that is, what I would really think that the military would love to wash their hands of this whole thing once again, and so be prepared for diversions. Right? Is that what we should be prepared for? Someone. I heard a rumor that one of the videos were. I got to watch how I say this. One of the videos that got a lot of publicity was released purposely, knowing that it was not a good video, and trying to mix it up, trying to discredit people that were looking at it seriously. So I don't know how much I can say about this. I was told this in confidence, and it's a really good source, but I find that interesting, and I'm not surprised.
Think about this. There was 143
unexplained and one explained.
Other than the balloon, okay?
Yeah.
Do you honestly think they're going to release the details? Because then our adversaries, if they were to say it happened at such and such place on such and such date, they have data that goes back. They have satellite imagery. They will go back and see what is reported in this. If you make that public, our adversaries are going to say, okay, they just said where this happened. Let's see. Let's go back and see if our satellites picked up any activity. I'm using that just as one example. Do you honestly think they want to leave that out to the public? I don't.
Yeah.
Because that's national security. And I don't know, people like Lou Elizondo. People say, well, why doesn't Lou speak up? Because he'll go to jail. He'll go to prison.
He can only talk about so much.
That's right. He's got a family. And we have to think he's a human being. And I'm just using it as an example. I'm not saying I'm pro or against, I'm just saying if you look at it from a logical perspective, these people have to be careful what they say because they can get in a lot of trouble, Martin.
Yeah.
So it's complicated. So do I think that we're going to see disclosure? I don't think so. Now, unless there's a leak, a video comes out or people step forward, and even if people step forward, they're going to right away attack them, destroy their credibility. They'll find any means to destroy them.
Well, let's just put out a scenario. Say Lou Elizondo decides to say a little more than he really should say. How would they make an example out of him? You think they would try to discredit him?
But they have already.
Yeah, actually, you're right about that. The Pentagon denied for a while. A spokesperson
emails?
denied that he had anything to do with the. Yeah, I've seen the emails.
When John Greenwald, I mean,
right? Yeah.
I mean, they will do whatever it takes to make sure that people don't take you seriously.
Yeah, interesting. I love the fact that you just shared those UFO encounters. That was really good. And I'm hoping that there are people that are going to call in and continue that or talk about this subject. Do we still have that person on hold?
No. I went off on one of my rants. I apologize.
That's all right. No.
But you know what? Let people. I would really love people. All right, we have a caller now. I'm just going to bring the caller right on. Let's just.
All right, sure, yeah. Tell me when they're live.
They're on.
Caller, you are on the air. We have no idea who you are, where you're from. Could you please give us your first
Martin?
name? Yeah.
Yeah, hi. I love you. I love your producer. I think you guys do a great show.
Well, thank you. What's your name?
Keith.
Hi, Keith.
Hi, I'm in New Jersey. Whoopee. Hello?
Yeah, you're there. You're live.
Okay. I if you could bear with me, I need your help. Okay. All right. I was thinking about it. I'm hearing somebody else saying where I'm from in the background.
Bill, we may have an audio issue. Bill. Okay.
I'm hearing Bill, I guess.
Yeah. All right. Just try to ignore him if you can, and you're on the air, so keep going.
So anyway, my background is. You're still getting Bill, at least on my end. My background is kind of stupid. I have a BA in religion, a BA in philosophy, and or a minor in philosophy and a BA in psychology. But I had a professor who had a PhD in religion and in psychology, and was going for his PhD in physics. And one of the things he kept doing in his lectures, he kept merging the different languages of these different disciplines to kind of explain what was going on in terms of what we're experiencing. Okay, so anyway, I'm sitting here and I'm listening to this UFO phenomena, and there's things like, gosh, I don't even know how to start. Basically, what I discovered, or at least I thought of, was there was a whole series of religious texts like Gopi Krishna, Paramahansa Yogananda, Muktananda, Play of Consciousness, Alexander David Nell, talking about tulpas, poltergeist, Robert Monroe, Journeys Out of the Body, astral projection in general. And so those are all indications that humanity has the ability to penetrate into sort of interdimensional fields. Fine. So why can't these dimensions interact with us and even manifest physically? Tulpas are, Alexander David Nell said, were like manifestations of the mind consciousness that would physically move things in the campsite and became annoying, or at least one particular, and so all the monks had to sit down and meditate to get rid of it. So the mind created that. Poltergeist is the same kind of thing, especially with the phenomena with children. So I don't know how one approaches UFOs without understanding that not only are we able to penetrate that dimension, but they're penetrating our dimension and possibly being physical. And I kind of, it makes sense. It's a dialogue or a dialectic. And I don't know what you feel about that, but that was one thing. And the other thing about the environment, there was tons of people who remote viewed, like Da Vinci did all the inventions, Chet Snow did Mass Dreams of the Future, Gordon Scallion, Michael Scallion did the whole thing with the maps, and there's all these other future maps by all these other people. But these timelines never seem to manifest, but yet show Earth changes. So I don't know. We do get information from other places. But sometimes they manifest and sometimes they don't. But I think the key point of why I was calling was that you see, we are capable of penetrating these other dimensions simply by our consciousness. And that consciousness or that dimension is also capable of coming to us and manifesting. So throw the government out. I think the caller was right about saying basically that the government, why would you trust them? It makes no sense. And it's also a distraction. And I don't know how you feel about any of this, but that was basically what I was thinking about.
Yeah.
And don't ever forget things like the Baxter. He did the whole thing with he hooked up plants and he discovered they had vibrations, and then there was other kinds of experiments done with vibrations, and all that shit was shut down.
Yeah, right. No, I've looked into that in the past. That's very fascinating. I've had people talk on this show that have talked about, the dimensions and that the possibility of it. And I think that is definitely a possibility. And, and then you mentioned something about we're possibly manifesting things. And I agree that could be part of it too. I think there could be a lot of possibilities of what we were seeing, and interdimensional is definitely part of the puzzle, or an idea of how the puzzle is. But anyway, we have four. I guess it's 4 callers now on the line. So thanks so much for the call. I really appreciate it. So we got them lined up. So Bill, thanks a lot. Take care. Yeah. All right, Bill. Introduce the next caller. Go ahead.
Dave in Phoenix is on the line. So Dave, you're on the line with Martin Willis.
Hey, Dave, you're live.
Hey, Martin.
Welcome to the show.
Howard, I was starting to get my sea legs watching you on your boat those last few shows there.
Yeah, I wondered how many people got seasick. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I kind of miss it. It was nice seeing the outdoors there. But just a couple of comments. Talking about photographing UFOs. A few years back, Travis Walton had an event, like back-to-back years, probably 2014 and 15, up in Heber Overgaard, right in the area where his event took place.
Mm-hmm.
The abduction event, that is, not the UFO event he had. And my wife and I were leaving the cabin that we were staying in, walking over to the venue, and we looked to the west, and there was just a super bright, strange light in the sky. Kind of started freaking me out, because at first I thought it was a helicopter. Turns out it was a missile launch from the Pacific, from a submarine. And I was so stunned, so shocked by what I was looking at, because I had never seen anything like that. I never even thought of pulling out my phone and taking a picture.
Yeah.
Now, my wife, who really doesn't have much interest in the subject at all, we're walking back in, and she's like, "Did you get a picture?" I'm like, "No, I didn't." She's like, "Oh, here, take my phone. You can." I got plenty of pictures.
Yeah.
So, that's all I have to say about that. It's just not every, I think if you're into it, you might just not think of grabbing that phone. I would just wanted to focus on what I was seeing.
I totally agree. I was one time I was in Boston in the Commons, and I was walking with my son, and a blimp was going over, and you know how fast a blimp goes, it just barely moves. And by the time I got my phone out and the camera ready, the blimp had disappeared. So, I mean, if you have a sighting that is happening just for a couple of seconds, you'll be really lucky if you can catch it.
Right.
Get your camera on, get the whole thing going, and all that.
The phone's in my hand, maybe 10 minutes out of every hour. And at that moment, I never even thought of pulling it out. But,
that's right.
do you have time
Anything
for
else? We got calls lined up. Anything else?
Yeah, one more thing.
Yeah,
regarding
sure.
The Netflix docu-series
Mhm.
regarding UFOs. The thing that drives me nuts are the graphics. They're talking about a ball of light in the sky, and they have these graphics flashing across the screen of these massive ships with all these lights, and it's like, I think the attention span of the average adult, can focus on the topic that's being talked about and not have to have these images of,
But
these
Dave,
spectacular things that.
Dave, I've got because Travis, and I've met Travis. He stayed in my home, and that's the one thing that really bugged Travis was the Hollywood exaggerated interpretation of the events that unfolded.
They don't need to.
Absolutely.
This is what they do to garner attention, to get viewers. That's what they do. That's how they attract people to look at it. Now, for people like Martin, myself, and probably everybody that's viewing and listening to this program that are more familiar with the subject matter, we know the details and the innuendos, but for the main public, they're just trying to get them to get interested into it, and they give it that eye candy, so to speak, to make, you know what I mean? But for people like us, we're like, oh, come on now, really?
And I think it's really where we need to give James Fox a ton of credit for his, documentary phenomenon, because he didn't go into that, exaggerated.
Matter of fact,
aspect of
I think Martin may comment on this part when Randall Nickerson, when he's making this movie with the children, the Zimbabwe case. Didn't he say on your show, Martin, that he's not going to use not much graphics at all? It's all going to be about them. Didn't he say that on your show?
I believe so. And by the way, I get emailed every week about that. And I think I mentioned it last week that we will see that before the year is out. That's all I know. And it's going to be on a major, I don't know how much I can say, but we will see it.
Go ahead, Dave.
If you're going to use graphics, even Seth Breedlove, did you ever, his series that he has on Amazon, Small Town Monsters. The graphics are relevant to what's being spoken about.
Right.
Yeah. That's nice. But that's it. Thanks for your time. And Martin, Heather does say hello again.
Oh, hey, it's you. Oh, I didn't know it was you.
Yeah.
Good to hear from you. I'll say hi to Heather. All right.
I will do so.
Have a great night, Dave.
Good
Thanks
to talk
for
to you.
calling.
All right.
Yeah.
Thanks, Bill. Thanks, Martin.
Bye-bye.
Yeah. I hung
All
out
right.
with him and his wife.
Remember the Norway spiral and that?
That was a missile launch.
Out of control and kind of a thing.
Yeah.
And it happens all the time over California, Florida.
Yeah, the missile launches can be really spectacular. I had a friend. I should just tell this story real quickly.
Go ahead.
I met up with a friend, a longtime friend, and he happened to be up in the area where I live. And he was out in Sedona, I think a month or two ago. And there was the Google something flying over. He didn't know what it was. All the lights were lined up perfectly. He thought for sure he was filming a UFO.
Starlinks, maybe.
Yeah, that's exactly what it was. Starlinks.
Yeah.
And he thought for sure everyone thought they were watching a UFO. He was so excited. I
It is
can't wait back to tell my friend.
Martin. It is. It's wild to see it. They're all lined up. Sometimes there's two. It is. I actually pick up. Sometimes I see 3 satellites moving together. I don't know what they are, but it happens once in a while. I'll see 3 satellites moving together. It is interesting, but it's satellites. Anyway, we have Rob from Pennsylvania is on the line. Rob, you're on with Martin Willis.
Hey, Rob.
Hello.
Hi.
Hey, Martin. Hey, Bill. Thanks for doing the show. I love it.
Great.
With respect to what you guys were talking about, disclosure by the government earlier.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah,
I can hear Bill in the background as well.
Okay. So, Bill, just to let you know, are you able to mute yourself when or something, because the callers are hearing you in the background. I don't know what you can do to change that. But anyway, Bill, I don't know if you just heard anything I just said. We need to mute you when you're talking to someone or something.
Oh, did you hear me just now?
We didn't hear you, but the callers are hearing you. Anyway, continue on if you would, please.
Oh yeah. Well, about the government disclosing information, I just felt like we shouldn't get our hopes up, because it seems like we've been doing this for decades. However, if you do want more, we really need to get behind Lou Elizondo and Chris Mellon. Write your congressmen, your senators, or whatever, and try to help them out. And I know there's this thing about disclosure. People always talk about disclosure. And in my opinion, we've already had disclosure. If you look at all the things that have happened over the decades, even just from the 1940s or 50s at schools and other great events like 1952 in Washington, D.C., or the Phoenix Lights. I mean, holy cow. And there's tons more. There's a 1976, the Canary Islands. They had photographs of this thing. So it's just feels like what we're looking for from the government shouldn't be necessary, but I think it'll be very interesting.
Yeah. I think Bryce Zabel, who's been on this show a number of times, shared your view. He said disclosure's already happened, and this is, I think he called it soft disclosure or whatever he calls it, but a brilliant mind taking a look at this topic. But for the government to actually, for what they've admitted, I think is a kind of a big deal, but I don't know what is the definition of this type of disclosure. I don't really know. Does that mean that, a majority of the population is going to believe that, or believe, I don't know if believe is the right word, or see the evidence, or look into the evidence and not, just disregard it as nothing? I don't know exactly if we can plan on that to ever happen or not. The old saying about them landing on the White House lawn, I don't know why they'd want to land there, but anyway, I don't know what it would take to convince the public. I do think that the public is much more convinced than ever. I was with my friend last week, and we were at a house to buy a patio set, and we started talking about UFOs and brought that subject up, I should say, and that person like, oh yeah, I know all about the Navy and the Pentagon, and so that's just someone watching the news, and so it's very helpful when the media actually takes a serious look. I think it does make people want to get more curious about the topic.
I agree. And I also think, like what you're talking about, that the media is taking it more seriously now. There's less giggling going on and laughing when they're talking about it.
That's true. Yeah. And great points. You make great points, because I think there are two types of disclosures. One that we're waiting for the government to come out with. And yes, we see it all around us all the time. And going in, if you look back in history, like you said, 52 over Washington, D.C. I mean, come on. It's right there.
Yeah.
But they were saying that was refractions or something.
Yes.
I forget what it was. Yeah.
Yeah, but as far as the story goes, they should land on the Washington or on the White House lawn. They were everywhere, but they were everywhere. The headlines for, I think I know maybe it was Washington newspaper. The main headline was not for the Democratic National Convention, as the Democrats wanted. They wanted publicity for their convention. It was about the Washington, D.C. It was everywhere.
Right.
I spoke to, I don't know if you've ever had him on the show, Martin. And by the way, thank you for the call, Rob.
You're welcome.
And you have a great night.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
And we have more callers lined up, but I'm a good friend with Dan Willis. I don't know if you ever had him on. He was part of the 2001 hearing that they had in Washington, the National Press Club thing that Dr.
Oh,
Stevens.
yes. That was in 2000. Oh, and with Greer, yes, it was. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, 2001.
Yeah.
And he told me that this was big, Martin, for that time. They had a lot of interesting people on that panel. And he says, Bill, you know what happens? The media was covering it, and all of a sudden they lost all signal. He told me that. They said all the media coverage stopped, like it was cut.
Wow.
They didn't want that to go out to the public.
That's amazing. I never heard that part.
Yeah, he told me that. And I mean, I can get Dan Willis on the show. He's former Navy, retired Navy. He witnessed something while he was out at sea. And that's how he got involved in that whole disclosure.
Yeah. No,
hearing.
I'd like to talk to him some.
I mean, there's so many people out there, so many credible witnesses, circumstantial alone, let alone what like Rob discussed, all these different cases where multiple witnesses. It is soft disclosure. It's already around us.
Yeah. I'm going to throw this out. I'm going to throw this out one more time. If anyone knows how to reach Alex Dietrich, all I can get is she was the pilot that actually saw the Tic Tac off the Nimitz in 2004. I've been trying to reach her to get her on this show, and all I have is a Twitter handle. Can't get anywhere. But anyway, if anyone knows how to reach her, I would love to get connected with her.
You continue. There's 2 more callers. I can't take them until I have, because I don't want nobody on the line to hear me, your callers, while I'm doing it. So I'll be right back.
Yeah. All right. Are you saying we have a caller now? Okay. I guess he was saying that he needs to talk to them. But we do have callers waiting on the line, and Bill is taking another caller right now. So we'll get right to that caller in just a minute. So next week, just to let you know, I have an interesting show. Someone contacted me and said, hey, they know someone that is called the Auction Professor, or the Art Professor on YouTube, has a lot of followers. And he talked about having a Tic Tac UFO experience 30 years ago in Florida. So he's going to be on our show next week. So come back. Make sure you come back. It's the first time he's going to talk about it on a UFO show. He actually talked about it on his YouTube channel. Bill, are we ready for a caller? Oh, yeah,
I think we have all the callers we can take right now, Martin, because we have about 20 minutes. We have 5 callers. So the next caller is, let me make sure I press the right one. We have Carrie from California. Carrie, you're on with Martin Willis.
Oh, Carrie. Hi, Carrie. How are you?
Yeah. Hi, Martin. I'm fine. How about yourself?
Good to hear from you again.
My pleasure. Always a great show as usual. It's funny, this thing here about disclosure. Talk about synchronicity. Yesterday on a really great station, KGRA, Linda Moulton Howe and John Burroughs was interviewing George Knapp. And, they were talking about the disclosure. And George Knapp, of course, Skinwalker Ranch. Yeah. And he was saying, really, everybody says they're ready for disclosure. He goes, would you be ready if we came out and found out that reality is not really reality that we think we are, that we are being influenced, that this is nothing like, I guess, sort of like the Matrix. And I never thought of it that way. With, all the stuff that goes on at Skinwalker, the paranormal, the portals, what if this is all just the one thing? And that, we're all looking for like beings from space or time or, galaxies or something like that. When in actuality, it could be much more unsettling to many of us here trying to live our lives than if we didn't know what was going on. And I never took it in that context. And I thought that was pretty interesting that you said that.
I do too. And who knows? It's very much a possibility, as much of a possibility as everything else, really.
Well, I know, with all the weird stuff going on at Skinwalker, it just brings in so many things into this, phenomena.
So many different types of things going on in one place. Bizarre.
Exactly.
Really?
Exactly. And they're probably all related somehow. Someday we'll know, but it's just like kind of mind-boggling.
Right.
The other thing I was going to say is there's so many interesting things that happen down in South America. The gentleman before was talking about interesting cases. There was a great show on called Contact. I don't know why they took it off after one season, but they did a lot of stuff down in South America. There was actually a crash site that they went up into the mountains and saw it where nothing was growing. The U.S. military got involved with that retrieval down there. Water in reservoirs disappearing, and just real interesting stuff. But the last thing that they did, what was interesting, was Colores down in Brazil, if you remember that, where the saucers were shooting down rays and hurting people. I don't know if you ever heard of that one.
No, I don't think so.
Oh, it's a real interesting case. It was back in, I think, the early 60s. and they got to interview the nurse who were treating the patients. But the ships were going around and shooting down rays on people and causing burns on their skin.
Oh, yes, I know of that. Yes, that was awful.
And,
right? Yeah.
That was really awful. And what they found out at the end, which they were going to come into the next season, is that all the records on the cases down there and everything that happened went to a Mr. Robert Bigelow. And they thought that was really interesting. And they were going to try and do that in the next season, but somehow they never got renewed. But I think that's another interesting case because, that's kind of stands out. There's some hostilities there, I would say.
Yeah. If that's the right case I'm thinking of, I think someone involved in that went through a severe depression afterwards and basically committed suicide, if that's the one I'm thinking of in Brazil. I think that's the same one where there were the burns and all that. But Carrie, thank you so much for the call and your nice emails. Carrie lives in a town I used to live in out there in California. So it's always good to hear from you, Carrie.
My pleasure. I still have to get you those pictures, which will happen one of these days shortly.
Okay, I'm just having a little bit of trouble understanding. I don't know if it's the phone or it's my headset. I didn't quite catch that.
Oh, I said I still have to get you some pictures of out here.
Oh, yes. Yes. Yeah. All right, Carrie. Thanks a lot for the call.
Have a good night.
You too.
You too. Take care. Bye.
Yeah.
All right. We have Sam in Oregon on the line. Sam, you're on with Martin Willis.
Yes, you're live. Hi, Sam.
Right.
Hi.
Hello. Hey, Martin. Hey, Bill.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm good. How you guys doing today?
Good.
Cool. I got to admit, this is the first time I've came across your guys' channel. I'm a huge fan now.
All right.
Well, usually, I'm just producing Martin, and Martin has great guests on, but we've been doing these open line calls, and all of you have been tremendous with your calls, I have to say. Every call has been awesome. So thank you for calling in, Sam. What's your question or comment to Martin?
Oh, cool. I have kind of both. First, I want to give a shout out. I'm part of a really awesome UFO community, kind of an offshoot of UFO Twitter. There's a Discord channel, Reddit UFO, and then there's another one where we kind of focus a lot on cases like Chris Bledsoe. We call it Bledsoology. And there we have a lot of really great independent researchers, and we've been looking into some of this stuff for a long time. And it's just really interesting to see it kind of bubble up now in the mainstream. I have a quick question. I want to know if you guys are familiar with the Dorothy Isaac case.
I'm not. Martin?
Boy, hearing a lot of new ones tonight.
Kind of
That's good.
Yeah, she's kind of a tertiary character, but there's actually a documentary about her on Amazon. And essentially, she was one of the few people who was able to capture a lot of phenomenon on video. Actually, she was using like old film, the old 8mm cameras, that kind of stuff.
Sam, what's the name of that documentary?
Yeah.
What's the name? I didn't mean to interrupt.
I'm trying to remember the name of it. Capture the Light. But Dorothy Isaac, I-Z-A-T-T. Amazing figure. Her and another woman, I'm drawing a blank on her name as well, but we're all around the same time, we're able to capture a phenomenon that was unexplainable through their tiny little film cameras. Lights in the sky, all kinds of, really interesting stuff. But I mean, I could go on for days about that. But since you guys aren't familiar with the case, I'd like to talk to you guys about the connection between Chris Bledsoe. Are you familiar with him?
Yes.
Yeah. I met him. Yeah.
They seem like very similar people, Travis Walton and Chris Bledsoe on the outset. What have you guys drawn any conclusions about why those two cases are so similar, or what that could mean?
I never even thought of them as a similarity. I remember Chris's story. He was out by a lake, I believe, or a river. But I just don't remember all the full details. He was on this show, but early on, back in 2012, I think it was. So I'm a little rusty on the case, but I know there's some ongoing strange things that actually John Alexander eyewitnessed at his property. Strange things going on. Really strange.
A lot of strange stuff. Grant Cameron as well, like explaining, very interesting phenomena. They got a burning tree there.
Yes, the bleeding tree. Yeah, that actually, I mean, that's bizarre. Yeah.
A stream of photographs that they keep showing, that even Tom DeLonge seems to support. very Skinwalker Ranch related.
Hmm.
Now, to me, I mean, we're always struggling to figure out the physicality of this phenomenon versus like the interdimensionality of it, and how much of it is connected to consciousness.
All really great questions.
It is.
Yeah.
You hear a lot of Martin. I can't tell you how many times, as a producer of KGRA, this is coming up quite often, and
yeah,
I'm also one of those based on frequency, the metaphysical aspect of it, meditation, lucid dreams. I think all of this is intertwined. I really do.
Yeah.
And that the more we look into it, the more it seems like that's true.
Yeah.
There is a connection. They are intertwined. And it really kind of breaks the mold of this old idea that there's just these people similar to us on different planets struggling to explore their universe, and they happen to, hit ours on accident, and they're going to check it out. I think that idea is starting to go out the water, and that we're dealing with something that's so interconnected with humanity and consciousness that it'll explain a lot about what the universe really is. Now, I think that kind of vibe is going around a lot, and I wonder what, if that's true or if that's the direction this is going to go, how much the government knew about this and knows about this, and is that part of the reason why there's so much secrecy surrounding it, that it doesn't necessarily explain our physical universe as much as it explains consciousness.
But Sam,
that,
at the same time you're saying this, have you noticed in recent years the demonic narrative?
Yes, absolutely.
That's all part of it. Yeah.
It's all part of it. I mean,
absolutely.
So actually, you're making great points and comments, by the way.
To that point of the demonic element to it, I think one of the most important pieces of pop culture that has come out surrounding this phenomena is the movie Sign. And I don't know if you guys have ever seen that film.
Oh yeah.
But it, we're dealing with a priest who lost faith, and then aliens come down, supposedly, and then he has to find his faith again through battling, protecting his family. Now, a lot of people more beat me to the chase when they talk about the connection that these weren't aliens. They never show a spaceship. They never show technology. That these were demons. This was a man of God fighting demons, and that connection kind of is such a powerful connection.
Mm-hmm.
One that, like, when you really look at it and you really think about how old this phenomenon could be, and we look at like, hey, were they talking about this stuff in ancient times? And you really get the sense that maybe this consciousness connection, this spiritual connection, is connected to to this phenomena, and there's something constructed, manufactured by the powers that be to keep us in the mindset that, hey, this is a science fiction thing. This is not a spiritual thing. But I actually think that this might be way more spiritual.
We have two more callers, Sam. But I just want to say in closing, it's always about control. It's always about controlling the masses.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
you're on that. You're onto that. And keep up the great work and what you're doing out west.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right.
You have a great night.
All right, Sam. Who do we have now?
We have Joe in North Carolina. You're on with Martin Willis.
Joe, we've got a couple of minutes. So how you doing? Welcome to the show. You're live.
Pretty good. I'll make it quick. Thanks for having me on. It's a pleasure. I've been listening for about 3 months now, and I just love your show. So thank you guys.
Thank you very much.
I got an encounter story that I wanted to share, or not an encounter, but just a sighting. Back in 2003, I believe, I was probably 10 or 11. We're sitting in the pool in the backyard, originally from Santa Clarita, California, looking up at the sky. My mom's telling me how you could see the ISS go by sometimes and satellites and whatnot.
Yeah.
So we're looking up and we think we see one, and we see it going, and then it stops. It disappears, reappears in the same spot. This little light, like a satellite, starts going back the other direction, stops, disappears, reappears. It does that 5 or 6 times, and then it finally just kept going the other way from its original trajectory, and we kind of lost it in the sky. And then I was telling that same story to a girlfriend about a year ago, and we're looking up at the sky, and I'm pointing at the sky and telling her, kind of giving her an explanation. And we see this light we thought was a satellite, but it was just speeding across the sky. I've never seen a satellite that fast. And then on a dime, it made a 90-degree turn and started going the other way instantly.
Yeah, it's probably not a satellite.
I mean, I can't explain it.
Yeah. Actually, I've seen something like that happen, and I didn't want to say that I saw a UFO because I was because I just thought, well, I had a UFO encounter. Should I really talk about another one I had? So I'm not sure what I saw, but I saw something stop and all of a sudden go on a right angle turn. And I don't know what it was, but it was bizarre.
The only thing I will say, there's a lot of people that use drones today. I'm just saying, there's a lot of people that use drones today and they outfit them with lights. I'm just saying, I'm not, because I have to be skeptical, because even me, when I'm doing my sky watches, if I see something like that, and if you've seen what some of these drones can do, the ones you can purchase.
No, you're right.
Bro,
they can. I don't think mine was a drone though, because it looked like upper atmosphere.
I know. I'm just saying you have to take everything into account.
Yeah.
I actually have a drone on the way. It'll be here tomorrow. A mini drone. But the only thing I can say to that is that the original sighting was back in 2003. So I don't know. I don't claim that it's a UFO or anything. Right. I just know that it was so small. It had to have been way up there. I mean, really, really small. You almost couldn't see it if you were looking right at it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But thanks for having me on, guys.
Thank you for calling.
All right.
Joe, have a great night and make sure to call back again sometime soon.
Yeah, Joe, thanks for the call.
Thanks, guys.
Have a good night.
Just think, Joe's drone is going to be someone else's UFO.
No, I mean, no, but
yeah, I know what you're talking about. I've seen this drone in a city, and it just shot up and stopped, and it's like, oh my God, look just like what you would consider a UFO. The move of it.
The thing is, though, swamp gas, Chinese lanterns, now drones. It's always something. It's always something to replace.
It's going to get more and more and more.
We're going to get more.
Yeah.
All right, we have our last caller of the night. Eric from Hawaii. You are on with Martin Willis.
Hawaii. Aloha. How are you?
Oh,
you're live.
Good.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Eric.
Coming through, okay?
Yeah, you're coming through. Go ahead. You're on with Martin.
Awesome. So I'm calling in basically just to share my UFO encounters.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. Great. Let's hear it.
Let me turn my stream down. Okay. So, New Year's Eve, 2012, 2013, a friend of mine, a roommate who's now passed away, we went down to Hilo about 11:30 thinking, oh, we'll go catch the fireworks. And, because we'd never been down there, and I'd lived in Hawaii maybe 4 or 5 years, but I didn't realize there was no fireworks on New Year's Eve. There's just no public display. But on our way down there, we were watching, homeowners were setting off some fireworks here and there, and we could see coming down the mountain. It was kind of neat. And I'm sorry, let me turn off my stream. It's distracting here. So we saw what appeared to be like a Chinese lantern in the distance down the mountain, and I was pointing it out because it's interesting. It looked like they maybe had it tied into a tree, and like maybe a fountain or something underneath it was tied to it, spraying all around and stuff. But I thought, oh wow, that's really cool, and it kept rising up, and I thought, wow. That's a pretty mean Chinese lantern. It has enough lift in it to, lift some other fireworks. So I thought, well, let's pull over and check this out, because it was going up in the air, and actually it wasn't really rising. It looked like it was rising from our perspective, but it was actually what I thought blowing towards us, But after getting out of the car and we're standing there, and it's actually, we're in a misty spot above Curtistown. I don't know if you're familiar with Hawaii, but it's about 12 miles up the mountain. And as it got closer, I realized, well, that's not a fountain. That's LED lights or something. So I thought, oh, well, somebody really got inventive, and just strapped some lights on there and are twirling around and stuff. But this thing just kept getting closer and bigger and closer and bigger until I realized, that's not a Chinese lantern. And we realized we were looking at something we'd never seen before. And it was just chilling. I came to the sudden realization that, hey, the joke's on you. Everything you heard was true. They're here. And so, I'll make this a little shorter, but the encounter lasted maybe 20 minutes, 30 minutes.
That's pretty long.
Watched
Yeah.
7 of them go by, and they all came within, each one came a little closer. It was like they were shooting red scanning type beams, I would say, underneath the craft. And they looked like raindrop shaped, but they were definitely light beams, kind of like, looked like a hologram. And they were spinning around in a circle. So what we could see up close was inside these orbs, there was a saucer, the classic 50s style disc, gray, but we could see through the orb, we could see through the saucers, we could see through everything. It was just really outrageous. And as the saucers were like spinning like a top, I would say gyrating, a gyroscopic motion, like they were about to fall over, like a top is about to fall over, and they're wobbling around. Well, that appeared to be controlling the beams underneath and directing them. So as they were wobbling, they were traveling, it's hard to explain. The orbs were super stable, very stable, traveling at a very slow speed, while inside there's the discs were raging in this gyroscopic motion and doing all these control functions with the scannings underneath. So each one that went by was a little bit closer.
Well, I'm sorry to say this, but I hate to cut you short, I really do, but we are totally out of time, and another show is coming up on KGRA Radio. So I want to thank you so much for your call.
And Eric, feel free to definitely call back. Call back again to Martin's show, and I'm sure Martin would love to hear the continuation of this account that you had.
Yeah. And by the way,
well, definitely. I do have a part 2.
Okay.
That's the second account.
Have a great night, Eric, and thank you for calling.
Yeah. Thanks, everyone. And by the way, on my podcast website, podcastufo.com, I do have an anonymous form for people to fill out if they'd like to explain their UFO sighting. There's some great ones on there. Thanks so much, Bill. You really helped out tremendously tonight. It was a lot of fun.
Thanks to all the callers. Excellent callers.
Thank you, callers, for calling in. We couldn't have done the show without you. Thanks so much. And we'll be back next week with Don Hayden, an antique guy that had a Tic Tac UFO sighting. Thanks again, Bill. And remember everyone to keep your eyes to the sky. Goodbye. Good night.